I think it's going to be a little bit more involved in the general game plan, taking kind of like how I supported Shep and did some things with Shep in the linebacker room and kind of hopefully expand that to fit the rest of the whole defense. Still going to be doing some of the OLB stuff with Ham as well. But in terms of just the larger big picture, kind of focusing more on supporting Shep and being a voice for him to bounce things off of and kind of help him put together the vision of what he wants the defense to look like. We go all the way back 2014 when he was a player for us in Miami, and you see him even back then walk in the door. There's a leadership quality. There's an approach, a professionalism to how he comes to the job. And that kind of rubs off on the other guys around him. We saw it again when he came here in 2018, right? Coming in as a role, wound up starting a couple games, maybe a game or two for us. I remember we went out to Arizona, and he played exceptional football for us. And I think that's kind of, how do I say that, kind of bled over into how he coaches, right? You guys seen how the linebackers room has run the last couple years, the intensity, the demands, the detail, and I think now we're going to hopefully, what we're going to see is that's going to spread to the whole defense. And you just, when you're around him, he has that quality that the guys gravitate to. And I think the players are going to go perform for him as well. Well, first of all, I want to say how grateful I am for having had the opportunity to be with AG for 4 years. That you talk about an outstanding leader for the players, an outstanding coach for somebody like me, who obviously, I didn't play pro football, but to see and learn from a guy like Aaron Glenn, the perspective he brings, the intensity, the game day, the management of the players, the organization of the coaches, and what a great example that is for, I think, Shep to follow. Now, the thing about it is we have a structure in place, right? We're probably not going to change anything dramatic. We've got players that are in their third, fourth year, but that's a great thing about football is no two people see the game the same way, right? So the perspective and the vision that Aaron Glenn had will be different than what Kelvin Shepard has. Kelvin Shep's going to bring his version of how he wants it to look, and we'll find out about that as it unfolds. We haven't even lined up with pads on yet, so we really don't even know what we are. But that's going to be the fun part of this process, is watching a new guy grow into putting forth a vision and getting all of us coaches and players to go execute it for him. Well, Ben Johnson was one of our offensive assistants. You go back a couple years before that, Dave Phipp was our assistant special teams coordinator. The volume of guys that came through that building all those years ago, you look around the league, there's a lot of high-level coaches in a lot of high-level positions. I've been fortunate enough to be with these guys, and I've tried to learn as much as I can and help them any way I can to help our team win games. Well, I think what you learn is the great ones want to be coached, right? If you have a player out there that doesn't like coaching and doesn't take coaching, I think that really limits their upside. But you also have to understand how to coach them. They're not all coached the same way, because you get them at different parts or different places in their career. I was very lucky to work with Patrick Willis when he was a young, impressionable college linebacker. What a great experience that was for me as a young coach to learn how to coach a player like that while he's still learning how to play football. Fast forward a number of years, I'm in the assistant linebacker coach at Miami, and all of a sudden Jason Taylor's in the room, and you got to be careful. You coach him differently. What am I going to do? Oh, here's what you did wrong on the first 130 sacks of your career. Come on. So these guys have a certain built-in level of they've earned some respect from you as a coach that you got to work with them. You're not coaching at them. You're listening to their levels of input, and then you kind of help them through maneuvering how they want to continue to get better. And so, to me, the biggest thing that I've learned is you got to coach them all, you got to coach them hard, and you want to do whatever you can to help them get better. Because if that's what they believe, players will do whatever you ask. If they believe what you're coaching is going to help them get better, they will absolutely go perform at the level you ask them to. I think with every season, we start over every year. The idea that you just pick right up where you left off, I don't think that's every team, every staff, every roster, you got to go back to square one and build from the ground up. And I think that's the good thing for us with Derek. It's an absolute shame we didn't get to see him on that trajectory, because I thought the role that we have carved out for him is a very unique position where he's on the ball, off the ball, he's pressure, he's coverage. He's a very versatile, explosive player, and I'm excited to see that continue on past 4 games. I think we all got robbed of that, and I think that's going to be a very exciting thing to watch unfold over the course of the season.
Building on that a little bit, it seemed like during training camp finding a suitable backup for Derek was a challenge. You cycled through a lot of guys there, and maybe even went into the season and didn't really have the solution. Trevor ended up filling it a lot late in the season, but no snaps before that. Why is that position that so challenging in this defense? And do you think you guys are better equipped to find that solution behind Derek this year?
Well, I don't think it's necessarily you're looking for something behind Derek, right? We're trying to put the best 11 guys we have in any situation, and then within the structure of what we do defensively, we got to let those players be in spots where we accentuate what they're good at. Good English right there too, by the way, right? And so the role that Sam linebacker has is, you see it on the game film, right? He's stacked off the ball. He's on the end of the line of scrimmage. He's walked out in the slot. That's a lot of different jobs for one player to handle, and it's a very unique position to play. So therefore, in my opinion, that's a hard position for us to fill with one player. That makes sense? And so the idea that you're going to have a player as unique as Derek Barnes is, with his ability on the edge, his ability to pressure up the middle, his ability to drop in coverage, the idea that you would have a second player with that level of skill set sitting behind somebody on the depth chart, I don't see how that realistic that is. That somebody with that level of skill set, you're going to want on the field as much as you can. That's not we got to have a true backup. We work with the players that we have, and we figure out what they're good at, and that's what we do with them. Casey, in my opinion, is as an elite D-line coach as there is. We've been fortunate enough the last 2 years here to have what, in my opinion, are the 2 best D-line coaches in this league. And that's just those, because those are the guys that I know well, and the level of detail, you can already see it with the meetings and stuff that we've been doing. I think his track record speaks for itself. He was very influential on me when I first came to the NFL in 2008. He was the D-line coach that I worked with for 7 years. So a lot of what I know and what I see and what I think I'm going to see from D-line is based on what Casey has taught me over the years as a coach. So when I see it put in practice with our players and the details, the alignments, the adjustments, the way those guys play, it doesn't surprise me at all. My lens is about coordination, right? X's and O's, it's about players, not the scheme. But to me, there's a level of what you're coaching on the D line has to be coordinated with what you're coaching at the linebacker position, which has to be coordinated with what you're coaching in the secondary. And whether you want to be a 3-4, 4-3, wide 9, whatever you want to call it, to me, that stuff's irrelevant. Is my perspective, and what I try to look at is what we're doing coordinated. And when it is, and you've coached your players and you've got good players and those guys go out and play hard, that's typically when a defense works, right? If you have talent deficiencies, okay, that's one thing. But if you're not coordinated, if your D-line are playing a certain way and it doesn't match with what your linebackers are doing, chances are there's going to be some disconnect and you might not perform as well. As far as analytics and that stuff, we've been doing that for forever and a day, right? We used to call it tendencies. It's I think you guys talked about it a long time ago. So that's kind of a week-by-week thing, because everybody we play, every offensive coordinator we play has different things that they do, calls that they make in certain situations. So I don't really have a general view of that. My view is, are we putting our players in position to succeed, and is what we're coaching coordinated at all levels of the defense? It's not about this game with this play. It's how do things unfold, right? When you have a successful play, when you go look at, right, we just spent the first 2 months of the offseason watching every play. We look at what we did on the film, and when it's successful, we're trying to identify this is why it was successful. Look, we coached this guy to do this guy to do that, and that's why we did it. When a play isn't successful, we have to identify why wasn't it successful. Is it because what we coach this guy to do is in conflict? We found a way that, oh, that might be in conflict with that guy. I don't know that there's a specific point where you ever say, okay, we've got it all figured out. Everything's coordinated from front to back. It's a constant evolutionary process. I mean, the reality of it is injuries are injuries. Like, it's not something we can control. And it's, you guys saw us go through the lecture. Next man up. Nobody's going to feel sorry for us. Everybody's going to smell blood in the water and try and come after us. So we just got to, each week, you got to figure out, okay, who do we have? Who's healthy? What can we do? And let's go out there and perform. But to sit there and say, you give a second thought about, oh, this guy's hurt, that guy, we don't have time for that. Next guy, let's go. This is the National Football League. Everybody's trying to knock everybody else off, and nobody's going to feel sorry for it if you got injuries. I think it forces us to understand who we're coaching, what we're coaching, who we're putting in what position to do what. The things, okay, we lose guy, X guy, this guy. Well, the guy coming in behind him might be able to have a different set of skills. So let's see what we can do to help him. It forces us to kind of be more flexible as coaches and be less rigid.